After what we've seen over the last week or so, I've got to ask again, how did the left become Nazis? How did the hard left become exactly what it pretends to fight? Bullies, barbarians, thugs, people who ban books and silence opponents, people who in New Zealand last weekend did this to a woman. She's the blonde there somewhere in that mob being attacked and spat on and showered with liquid and eggs thrown at her, pushed over, threatened by leftists complaining that she's not tolerant. She is not tolerant. I mean, look at them. I'll show you more of that protest in a second. It's just horrible stuff. Plus other disgusting protests against this same woman in Australia in the days before, because it shows something very, very important about the modern left. Very dangerous, primitive, and they're hypocrites. Now, that woman being attacked is a British feminist, Kellie-Jay Keen-Minshull. She wants to save women's spaces and women's identity from the transgender lobby. And she went on a speaking tour of Australia and New Zealand, a tour called Let Women Speak, to talk to other women. Well, Let Women Speak, there were groups absolutely insistent that she should not speak. Now, the criticism I hear people of the left make of Keen-Minshull and people like her, I mean, J.K. Rowling, add her to the list, is that she doesn't show compassion to the transgender people. And I think, yes, to individuals you do show compassion, absolutely. But do the left measure up? In fact, the left actually, left-wing groups in New Zealand, they went to court to stop her coming into the country. They were saying they were not opposing freedom of speech. Oh no, they were just opposing the measurable threat to public order and the safety of others if Keen-Minshull was let in. Oh, that was so compassionate of them. What a lie and what hypocrites. Because if these leftists truly cared for compassion, they were truly concerned for the safety of others, truly defenders of free speech, then explain their protest against Keen-Minshull on Saturday and explain why the Twitter is filled with leftists supporting what happened. Because this protest was everything they say they oppose. I've never seen such a public bullying of a woman. Now, Keen-Minshull, she was attacked with tomato sauce as security brought her up to where she was meant to speak. That was right off the bat. And then a mob, many of them men, by the way, many of them men, tore down barricades to get to her. They were throwing eggs and liquids at her. They were getting right in her face, threatening violence, reaching out for her. That mob of leftists looked like it wanted to kill her. And guards, most of them women, tried to save her. Well, that's the left's compassion caught on video for you. The compassion, their concern for safety, their defence of free speech. Well, you saw it all. In fact, one drag queen punched an elderly supporter of Keen-Minshull. Another elderly man was also punched in the face. And an elderly woman was howled down and intimidated, including by men, as she tried to speak to a journalist. And not surprisingly, Keen-Minshull said she feared for her life from these leftists demanding compassion and public safety. And one of the women trying to protect her, one of the marshals, said she was terrified.
I believe in the rotunda. I think the best rule was just to hold tight to her. They started pushing. We fell over and people were stomping and shouting and grabbing. I had to try to cling on to her just to push through the main crowd. The main crowd were nasty. It wasn't just comments. People were actually literally trying to trip me up, trying to punch me, grabbing my clothing. And so we just thought we just had to link arms and push through the main people. Once we broke through there, it was still people hurling things at her, hurling insults and things at her.
This goes far beyond what we've already seen happen to people like J.K. Rowling, the Harry Potter author. You know, for saying she wanted women to have women-free spaces, not to have to compete against transgender athletes born male, not to have their identity wiped out of public debate. She's been subjected to horrible abuse, even death threats, shocking stuff, calls the ban of books, all that kind of thing. This goes beyond that, and I wonder where it's going to stop. I mean, you just saw what the left now does when a woman tries to give a speech at a peaceful meeting of other women, a speech that the left doesn't like. So you see, many people of the left, there wasn't even an attempt to give a better argument, to debate her, to hold another rally, not a confrontational one, to put their point of view and let the public decide. No, it doesn't like to do any of that stuff that involves using your brain. Instead, it is now, and you see it more and more, you saw it with the Black Lives Movement as well, other issue, you saw it there as well, they're acting like Nazis with violence to terrify these women into silence. Now that violence you saw, it was in Auckland, New Zealand. That was the worst of KeenMinshull's tour. But what went before in Australia, in the days before that, was also shameful. In Canberra, Minshull was threatened by a hard left senator waving an Aboriginal flag, and she had to be protected physically by private guards and the police until her attacker, Senator Lydia Thorpe, crawled off, dragging her flag with her, and claimed police brutality, of course, that's what she does. In Hobart, we saw a crowd surround KeenMinshull's female listeners, getting just yards away, really face to face almost, and shouting them down, the speakers, and intimidating them. No wonder many women were too afraid to turn up or just turned away and walked off. I mean, how can the left be proud of this bullying of a woman? Now in Melbourne, the protesters were waving their red flags. I mean, you know, true socialists there, true Marxists. They pushed up against the police trying to protect KeenMinshull. He's not a very tall person. Some even attacked the police. And one grabbed the microphone being used by KeenMinshull and other speakers, and go and look up Twitter. You would have thought that scenes like that would inspire many on the left with shame. They would denounce what you saw. Instead, you will see Greens politicians, prominent leftists, thousands of trans right people, and I don't know, tens and tens of thousands of leftists supporting what was done to KeenMinshull. They're actually proud of this mob rule. They're proud of this barbaric use of force in response to an argument. I've heard not a single politician of the left in Australia actually condemn what you just saw. Not one. What do they say? You know, the standard you walk past is the one you endorse? I don't know. Here's your chance. I thought we were all against the bullying and intimidation of women. Let women speak, but apparently not if they have a message the left doesn't like. What has the left become that this kind of thuggery, this intimidation, this attack on a woman is now applauded almost around the world as the way to argue? And you have to ask, what is next? Murder as well?